Well, hello, everybody, and welcome into Perspectives. And it is, of course, a bit of a holiday period. Halloween, always a good time to, I guess dentists everywhere love Halloween because it's a time when candy's passed around like whatever. Uh, Rebecca Lunker is our first guest today, and Rebecca comes to us from Guthrie. She runs a place called the Stone Lion Inn. Rebecca, it's good to have you.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I understand your folks brought you up to believe that this was that everybody gave candy out because it was your birthday.
Yes,
Tell us
yes.
about that.
Well, I was born at Halloween, and every year my mother would make us costumes, and she would send my sister and I out with the neighborhood kids, all trick-or-treating, and she would be really excited, and she'd say, "This is your birthday, and people are going to give you candy, and it's going to be so exciting, and you get to go with all your friends."
When did you
And
find
I was
out?
9 years old before I figured out
When when
it
did you
was Halloween and everybody was getting candy and it wasn't their birthday. But anyway,
how old were you when you found out that it really didn't have anything to do with your birthday?
about nine. I was slow.
Well,
All that time I'd been going out and I just never got it.
you are in Guthrie.
Yes.
Uh, are there haunts and goblins and spooks up there?
Well, some people seem to think so. And we have a lady here in town who does ghost hunt, she takes people on walks around town and tells them about the ghosts of Guthrie and who lived here and who lived there and kind of what happened. And um, and then I bought an old, what I didn't know at the time was a funeral home. And it had kind of a jaded past. And after moving into it for a few weeks, I realized that it had some issues. And that's what I prefer to say.
Well,
It
now,
has issues.
what do you mean issues? We
Well,
give
you
us more here.
hearing things. Well, the first things that happened to us, I was a divorced mom and I had these two little boys, and I was turning this house into a bed and breakfast. And we lived on the third floor. And at night, I would be laying awake and I'd hear footsteps coming up to the third floor, and the door would open and the door would close, and there would be nobody there. And that was my first suspicion that something was wrong.
So you believe in, I don't want to call it supernatural, but you obviously have some inkling here of what you're dealing with.
You know, I am, I was never raised to believe in a ghost or any of those kinds of things. I can't tell you that I've seen one, but I've heard a lot of things and I've had a lot of experiences. And I don't know. I think someday maybe, we use such a small percentage of our brain that there may be someday when, this more is revealed to us. I don't know. Can't tell you I do believe in ghosts, but I can't tell you that I don't. I have had some strange things happen in the house, and I've had guests tell me that they've had strange things.
Well,
And
did
for the
it,
first 10 years I lived here, everybody who'd come in and say, "Is this place haunted?" Because we've heard it on. Do you remember an old program called MySpace?
I do.
It was before Facebook.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they started talking about us on MySpace, and people would talk and say, they went to the Stone Lion Inn this weekend, and um, my glasses were removed, and I found them down in the parlor, things like that. Um, so every time they would call me, these paranormal groups would call and say, "We'd like to do a little investigating on your house. We understand it's haunted." And I would say, "Oh no, not coming here. Nope, there are no ghosts here. We are a ghost-free zone."
Well, now, Rebecca,
And so
wait a
for
second.
10 years, I wouldn't do it.
Rebecca, let me interrupt you
Yes,
for just a second. Didn't you say the house was an old funeral home?
it was. Yes.
When did you find out it was an old funeral home?
Not for 3 months. And
Oh,
there's this beautiful, beautiful table in the hallway. And we used to be in the kitchen. It's the embalming table. And I didn't know it was an embalming table. It was the only piece of furniture that was in the house when I bought it.
Uh,
And the lady who sold it to me, this is a great story. We this beautiful white table that's porcelain, it's huge, and she was using it as a buffet. She was the second owner. I'm the third owner in a house that's over 100 years old. So that's kind of odd. And so we're walking through the house on the day of closing, and we come to that table. And I said, Mrs. Walker, aren't you going to take this table? And she was younger than I am now. And she says, No, sugar, we're downsizing. We don't have room for that table. But if you had admired it when you were here, we thought we'd leave it for you. Would you like to have that table? And I said, Oh, yes, I would just love to have that table. It's so unusual. And she says, Yes, it is unusual. And then
and
she
when
knew
did you?
all along it was an embalming table, but she didn't tell me. She gave it to me. She said,
Oh Lord.
It can be your baker's table. I want you to have it. And it was 3 months before I found out that I had bought an old funeral home. So,
I'm not laughing at your situation. I just think that's incredibly funny that it turned out to be an embalming table. And did you ever eat at that table?
no, we moved it out in the hallway and we serve coffee on it for breakfast in the morning. We put our coffee out there and we put things for our guests to drink out on the embalming table, and we tell them, coffee will be on the embalming table at 7:30.
That's one of the strangest stories I've ever heard. Listen, I want to thank
Well,
you. Thank you for coming in. This is the Stone Lion Inn in Guthrie. Is that right?
that's correct.
Okay. Well, Rebecca, you've been very sweet to take the time to talk with us. And a tip of the hat to Casper, should you see him.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All
It's
right.
been
And
enjoyable.
we'll talk to you again next time.
It's nice to meet you also.
Good to meet
Bye-bye.
you. Bye bye. We're going to take we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more from the other side right after this.